A couple of weeks ago, we had the sounding board for senior leaders. We had it coach five subjects, and these were senior leaders. We wanted them, with their use case, talk to Sherlock as a sounding board, just a 10-20 minute conversation. And then they had, for the same use case, a conversation with two coaches. We had engaged two coaches, senior coaches, and I was not surprised, at least for the 20-minute conversation, all five coachees, all five, 100% said they got more value, and they said where they thought they got more value out of Sherlock sounding board than from the coach. Than
Wow.
so some of that reflects on what the coaching cohort in NYU, these are postgraduate people who are doing their coaching certifications, they said that some of the edges, and I want to share this with you so you can then probably share your views, either amplify it or challenge it, what have you. But let me share the piece with you. So they said these were 20, a cohort of 20, and each of them responded to the survey. So some of the pieces were content. The first edge was content. So we asked, what do you mean by that? So to elaborate, they said, when we were having a conversation with Sherlock, it came up with stuff like metaphors on the fly and asked us who are some of the leaders or models we model some of the leaders we look up to, and these could be personalities or even in the workplace. So most of us came up with personalities or leaders we look up to, and pronto Sherlock, and that's the frame we built around it. So Sherlock then gets a quote and thinks that leader has a, now which human coach can on the flick just get quotes from anyone? Now
Wow.
that's technology, that's the
Yeah.
capability, right? So that was one, so that terms in terms of content and tools. Then direct and consistent questions, which they meant accessibility, democratization, and user friendly, especially, here is it, I'm going to underline this, especially for younger generation who may not relate to older coaches. I think there's a point there. And
Yeah.
if I coach a Gen Zer, I'm sure they're not going to relate to me much, or an early career. They probably relate to younger people, or who bring that energy. I mean, I may bring that
Well,
energy.
they probably will view you as a mentor,
Yeah.
which is but that's different than a
Very
coach,
different.
and it's so it becomes very important to understand the distinction.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Another edge they said was memory and resource capability. Obviously, computer will have more memory, so it could run back. So a conversation that happened 5 minutes ago, Sherlock would bring that back again and say, hey, we said that, now how do you, so that kind of stuff, right? Then
Right.
it said, uh, uh, yes, the ability to pull and synthesize information quickly, gave me direct quote from famous authors which I relate to, that kind of stuff. And then convenient, we could engage anytime, because sometimes
Right.
we need to have dynamic conversations. For example, we're going to a board meeting or we're going for a team meeting, and we may have certain pieces that you cannot call your coach at that time. So these are the few areas they talked of AI coaching per se having an edge over human coaches, some subjective and some objective.
Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense. And in fact, especially around the topic of content
Yeah.
and memory and access to a lot of information, I think that there's no question that an AI bot like Sherlock will overtake the capability of a human being very, very quickly. And as you said, it will be available anytime at any place. So you take the combination of lots of great information that is relevant in real time. How can you compete with that, really? I think at the end of the day, what will happen is that products like Sherlock will actually be super successful at especially working with, as you said, the next generations that are used to working with technology. They're comfortable with technology. In fact, they may be more comfortable with a text bot than they are talking directly to a person. So I think it's very likely that they will be very, very turned on, motivated, engaged, and learn incredible amounts. And I think that it behooves those of us that are still doing real life coaching to really step back and reflect on what value we want to bring to either, the next generation or to the leaders that we're currently working with, because what it will be left for the human to human relationship will be, I think, deep dive creativity kinds of conversations. And so I would worry less about being replaced by an AI bot and more about making sure that as a real human coach, you're keeping your growth edge around things like intuition and creativity and relationship skills, so that you can really read the facial expressions, the fears, the concerns, the emotional dynamic with your client, because you will never compete with content, you will never compete with memory, you will never compete with speed, you will never compete with timeliness. You're not going to be available at 2:00 in the morning. And so rather than having anxiety about that, let's just make it work for all of us. I think it's so exciting. I'm actually, maybe I'm too optimistic, but I think that, as I said at the outset of this call, the opportunity to create an environment where almost like the vast majority of people get coaching early in their career, to me, that changes the dynamic of the whole way they view development. They will want to be coached their whole lives, sometimes by a bot, sometimes by a human, maybe by a combination. I don't think it will replace humans. I think it will just make coaching something that everybody wants and everybody can benefit from.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the whole piece about scaling Gen Zers and early.
Yeah.
We are very focused at that level as of now, though the sounding board came up trumps as well with the example for CEOs. So that's pretty good.